So the franchise tag talk is heating up a little bit.
It definitely is.
Not as much for the Steelers, though, but we figured why not make a topic on it? Is there anyone on the team that we should franchise tag? Because the benefit of the franchise tag is you don't have to commit to someone long term, but
correct.
You basically have them commit to you because that's just how it works for one season. They have no choice in the matter. So players typically don't really like the franchise tag because they're looking for a more long-term deal. At the same time, for one season, you're getting paid top 5 money at your position. So as much as Bud Dupree probably didn't like when we franchise tagged him, he's still getting paid
he liked the check
for a year, whatever it was.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not going to complain about it too much. So here are our options, and the tag has to do with unrestricted free agents.
Okay.
Here are our options right now. And we went over these guys.
We did.
Our breakdowns, about a month ago, we went through all the unrestricted free agents. Who should we sign, re-sign? But now the question is, who should we franchise tag? If use the franchise tag at all.
Right, because like you said, man, it's a big payday, but it's only on a 1-year deal. But it's still a substantial increase in any of these guys that we're going to be talking about from a compensation perspective.
Terrell Edmonds, Trey Turner, Chooks, Big Ben, Joe Hayden.
Tell me.
He's on the list.
Yo, stop playing with me, man.
The unrestricted free agent list.
You know what? I think the whole system crashed if that's the case. If I just heard you say Big Ben is a franchise candidate, maybe the whole system just crashed.
These are just the unrestricted free agent list that they had up. This is probably old. This is probably before he retired. But anyway. Joe Hayden, Ray McLeod, James Washington, Arthur Millette, Akello Witherspoon, Montrevious Adams, Eric Ebron, Juju, Taco Charlton, BJ Finney, Kalen Ballage, Miles Killebrew, and Josh Dobbs. Those are our options. My answer is really simple for this one.
Yeah. I put it like this. I limit it to 2 players right away. It's either between Joe Hayden and Edmonds for me in terms of if I want to franchise any of those guys, because with Chooks, even though I thought that, even with Chooks having 2 years of starting experience now, and like I said, he wasn't the worst player. Like, he still did some decent things, and we can talk about some of the guys he had to block, JJ Watt, Von Miller, etc. I don't want to pay him what that franchise tag is going to pay him. I would much rather, if I wanted to bring him back, I would try to negotiate a deal with him, but I don't want to pay him tackle tag money because that's a little bit more substantial than I would like, Do
you want me to go over those numbers?
Yeah, go for it, man. Absolutely.
This is why it's just such an easy no for me.
Yeah, I'm just like,
wide receiver. So this is like James Washington and Juju. $18.5 million, or even Ray McLeod, $18.5 million.
When I think of franchise tag receiver, I think of Devontae Adams. None of our receivers are that.
Oh yeah, that'll be a value actually for Green Bay.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was like, I couldn't imagine us paying Juju that. I couldn't imagine us paying James Washington or Ray McLeod that. Shoot, all 3 of them combined, I don't think they would get that. Like, if we're being realistic about it, because
I don't know what I would do if I just saw that pop up as a headline. Steelers franchise tag Juju. Steelers franchise tag James Washington.
Yeah, man. Like, that's insane to me, man. Because even with Juju, right, and we're talking about where his market and what we think it is, his productivity doesn't warrant that either. Obviously, early on in his career when he was with AB, it looked like, he could be a candidate for that type of situation. But now that it's further and further removed from AB, we're seeing Juju is really, a high-end slot receiver, but a different style of slot receiver just because of he's not really a speedy, bursty type of guy. I don't want to pay 18 for that. That's just me personally.
Want to hear the other positions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Safety, $13 million. O-line, $16.5 million.
Yeah.
Cornerback, $17.5 million. And tight end, so Ebron, $11 million.
Yeah, I don't want to pay Ebron the 11 because we already got Pat. I like what I saw from Gentry. And 11 is just a lot when we think that Pat is going to be ready to take that next step. With Chooks, 16, you said, for the tackle? Oh,
yeah, that's terrible.
16 for Chooks. No, I can't do it. Like I said, he played well. It wasn't god-awful, He had some good moments, but it wasn't to 16. If it was to 16, we would have been done this extension. If it was to 16, we wouldn't have been talking about, hey, is Banner going to get an opportunity to see if he could be better? We wouldn't be talking about that for 16. But yeah, I'm cool on that one, man. No. The safety one is interesting.
We were talking about all the dudes on the list.
Yeah.
In single digit contracts.
Absolutely. And that's
all these
my
franchise
issue.
tags are in the teens.
Yeah. And what do we say about Edmonds? We said the tag for Edmonds is 13. We think we could get him for anywhere between 6 to 8. I think anywhere between 5 to 8, just depending on how you structure it and what his mentality is. But I also think that something that could be in play, and before I even get to that part, but even with Joe Hayden, right? You said with the corner is what, 17? I think that's what you said?
17 and a half.
Yeah. We know Joe is not there right now. That we don't even think that we would pay Gilmore 17. So if we think Gilmore is a better player than Joe right now at this stage in their careers, and Gilmore has a depot, I just can't do it. And I love Joe. That's my dude.
And we could get Gilmore I just can't do it, bro. 3 years.
That's what I'm saying. I just can't do that, man. It just doesn't make sense from a cost benefit perspective, right? But going back to Edmonds. So granted, I said, man, this really pertains to just two guys in this conversation, this franchise tag. It really pertains to Joe Hayden and Terrell Edmonds, just based on their play. But what I would say is this. I would also consider the transition tag for Edmonds very similar to what we did with Jason Worlds. So you remember what Jason Worlds, when he finished up his rookie deal, he came on, I think he had like a 7-sack season or 7.5 sacks. And that was his first real time having that productivity. We didn't want to franchise tag him because obviously it would have paid him crazy double-digit millions. But you could, right? But you transition tag him and it cut it in about half. But it was still a substantial upgrade from what he had currently been paid. It was still a 1-year deal, so it was his opportunity to come out here and show that he could do that again at a high level, and then he would have been in line to get a big contract. He just happened to retire. But
what's the negatives of the transition tag for the organization?
The negative for the organization is they don't have the exclusivity of, hey, nobody can touch this guy. In terms of other teams, they will have an opportunity to talk to negotiate a deal. If I remember correctly, and if they can get a deal done, then I think we would get some type of compensation from that. But either way, it just allows him to be able to talk to other teams and negotiate. Whereas on the franchise tag, he can't talk to anybody but us. And that's the reason why the number is a lot higher, because you're essentially saying you don't get to know what your market value is. You just have to take what we're going to say based on what guys have been paid, top 5 in that position. And that's how we're just going to compensate you. So that's the part for me where, like I said, I would much rather transition tag or consider transition tag in Edmonds, because for Edmonds, it could be either or. You might say, give me the transition tag because I think I can go out here and continue to grow, continue to excel. We saw his interception numbers, they went up. That was the big knock on him, right? Not enough splash plays. So if he feels like, hey, man, don't lock me in on a long-term deal. Let me come back on a transition tag and I can increase my numbers even more. I can play even better. Well, then he can get that big deal that he really might be looking for a year from now. So that's the part that I consider. But he also might be seeing job security. So the job security element is what? You go and you essentially say, I'm going to give you a 3-year deal worth, I don't want to say 30 because that's 10 per. I would say a 3 for 24, right? Or 3 for 28, like something in that range where, or in that 20 to 30 range, right? So he can at least feel like he's compensated to a high enough level that he's comfortable with, but also that the team is comfortable with. So that's kind of how I would look at that.
So I'm looking at, this is 2021 numbers for transition tag. Safety is at 9.6 million. I'm assuming that will maybe go up $500,000 or maybe $1 million this year.
Yeah. So
we're looking 9-10 range.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it'll be essentially a 1 year.
That's just one. Yeah. So that's obviously a little bit better.
Right.
And I think that would just happen. If we do that, Edmonds will be back on the roster because I don't think anyone is giving up picks. And it looks like they would be picks of substance. I'm trying to read through this here.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a lot more, flexibility and stuff like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's a lot more movement in terms of the team that's tagging him along with outside teams having a chance to communicate. But that's why it's rare that it happens, because it's either cut and dry, right? You either have a guy that is clearly franchise tag ready and you just can't get that long-term deal done, so you tag them, or they're not good enough to get the tag. It's very rare when you get these guys who have played really good, right? In terms of Edmonds, he's 4-year starter. Like you're not a 4-year starter in the NFL if you're not a good player. And we also talk about not just his impact, but how he impacts Minkah. We said that he is essentially the Ryan Clark to Minka's Troy Polamalu. You can't have Troy without having Ryan. You need both of those guys. They work together. They both do, something that the other one doesn't like to do as well. So with that, when I think of Minkah and I think of Edmonds, I'm like, man, those two guys, we clearly have a proven pair. We clearly have two guys that work well together and are productive. So why not, try to keep those guys together as best we can?
100%. I do not want to lose Edmonds.
Yeah.
Don't feel good about paying him like $9 or $10 million this year, but it would just only be a 1-year deal. I want to lock him up long term because even with the transition tag, part of me thinks it won't feel right because we'll give him that $9 or $10 million.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming he's going to play good again. He's very reliable. He's always out there on the field. Has he played in every game? And he's only been getting better. So I feel like he's going to want a better contract the following season.
And I always
relations could sour a little bit.
Yeah.
If we keep doing like just a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
We like you, just not that much to give you the multi-year deal. Yep. Hopefully it could work out. I could see him wanting a certain amount and maybe us not willing to pay him that because we give him the best opportunity for success, I feel like. We've talked about that before. I don't think he would necessarily be the same for any other team.
Right. And we said he might want to go to Buffalo and play with his brother.
We'll put it to you that way. He can still maybe perform somewhere else.
We said he could go to Buffalo and play with his brother. Family ties are big in the NFL, but we also said that doesn't work because they already have two elite safeties in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. So, with that, I mean, it does make a lot more sense for Edmonds to stay here and to ultimately get him on a deal. But I also laugh, man, when we talk about Edmonds, and I pointed this out to you, I think it was like a year or two ago, when it's like, man, people really get on him, but he excels as a tackler. I mean, we talk about how, when you see guys missing tackles, how gory that feels and how bad it is. And I was like, with Edmonds, he is one of our best tacklers. And it's so funny that people will overlook that element of his game until he has one or two bad angles where he might miss a guy. And it's like, oh my God, what is Edmonds doing? It's like, bro, do you realize how efficient Edmonds is in tackling? Like, he is one of our best tacklers, pure tacklers, fundamental tacklers. So for me, man, like, I feel like that is a critical part of the game. And we saw last year directly how much of a negative impact that can have when we don't tackle the way we need to. So that's another reason why with me, man, I'm just like, I want to do what we can to keep him here because he's only getting better. And he's another good character guy. We haven't had any type of off-field issues with him. We haven't heard of any, mild content or any type of displeasure within the organization from him or him towards the organization. So it's like, why not keep a good thing rolling?
100%. And nothing in the media either. Where
that's what I'm saying.
Causing drama.
Yeah.
So 340 total tackles in 4 seasons for Edmonds. Yeah. And his last 2 years, 8 pass deflections in 2020, 6 pass deflections in 2021, had 8 tackles for loss last year. So he's good. He's just a good player.
And then he had, like I said, he had the interceptions as well, man. So when you talk about all this is a guy that is continuing to grow. This is a guy that is continuing to develop, and he is a high level athlete as well. Like, you watch him, he jumps off the screen athletically. He's fast. He's agile. And he's strong as well. So to me, I just think that, man, you keep guys like that, especially when it's homegrown. I mean, how many secondary guys do we talk about?
25 too.
Right.
So he's young. Like, you sign him for a 3 or 4 year deal.
Come on now.
Again, he's going to be 28, 29.
We call them 3 contract guys. And for me, man, it's like you had, like, how many secondary guys have we missed on in Pittsburgh that we've drafted? Safeties or corners. Like, it happens more frequently than we would like it to. So it's like you finally got a guy that you hit on. You finally got a guy that has proven that, he is a competent NFL starter. He is definitely that. We're not going to say he's an all-pro. We're not even going to say he's a Pro Bowler, but he is a legitimate NFL starter. Why lose that for the sake of, hey, I want to go try something new. Now I want to go try somebody else. Like, no, you already have this piece. You already know he fits. You already know he works well with Minkah. You already know he understands Brian Flores. Not Brian Flores. He understands Terrell Austin's coaching style. He understands Mike Tomlin. So it's like, why mix that up when you don't have to?
Yeah, I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Just we can't franchise tag him.
Yeah.
I guess if like you had to.
Right.
Someone forced you
but
to,
like I said,
I just franchise tag someone. I guess that would be the call for sure.
Yeah, I just think, man, when you have
a transition tag makes way more sense. You're right.
Transition tag is the way that I'm approaching him, or I'm trying to get him on a longer 3-year, multi-year deal. like I said, if I'm Edmonds, I just got to decide, do I want to bet on myself or do I want the job security? If I bet on myself, give me the transition tag. If I want the job security, well, give me the multi-year deal. I know it's going to be less than double digit per year, but it is what it is. I'm safe now.